We welcome you to another special evening, the Kiwanis Police Awards Night. Let us begin the evening by standing.
Detail. All carried. Out. Wait. 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 Come on. One time.
Would we all please stand and start with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor guard. Host. He said, host. Hold her. Host. Left. Host. Onward. Host.
Please remain standing as Father Ed Sheridan, pastor of St. Rosalie's Roman Catholic Church in Hampton Bays, offers tonight's invocation.
I'm also the chaplain of the New York State Troopers Signal 30, and in particular I want to pray for Trooper Joe Gallagher, who was injured in the line of duty, and we pray for him and we pray for all of you and all law enforcement throughout our country, especially on our island here in the East End. Dear Lord, we ask your blessing upon all those who protect our citizens here on the East End and throughout our nation. We in particular pray through the intercession of St. Michael the Archangel to watch over them, to bring them home safely each and every day to their family and friends. We pray for those who have been injured in the line of duty, and we pray that all men and women in law enforcement who keep the peace that will receive the reverence and respect from our nation's citizen, from our village and towns and hamlets. And we ask God's blessing upon all of you and this food that we shall eat, praying for those also who go without. Amen.
Thank you very much, Father. Please be seated. Well, you have to admit that kicking off this evening's ceremony with the color guard and the pipers is the right way to do things. And a very special word of gratitude to the Eastern Long Island Police Pipes and Drum, as well as the Riverhead Police Department Honor Guard. So, gentlemen, thank you very much. Once again, I welcome you to the 48th annual Kiwanis Police Awards ceremony. My name is Paul Stengel, and I will be your master of ceremony for this evening. Now, veteran participants here this evening know full well this evening is a tradition amongst the Kiwanis world. We set aside this evening each year to recognize and honor the men and women of law enforcement who have set themselves apart in the line of duty this past year. It's our way of saying thank you for preserving the quality of life we enjoy and keeping our communities safe for our families. Before we begin with the awards presentations, I would be remiss if I didn't make a few acknowledgments. And I suppose the first one, the one that is responsible for us being here tonight, would be our events chair, Debbie Brown. Thank you very much, Debbie. It takes many, many hours to orchestrate the communications with the departments, handle the scores of emails, texts, and many, many details necessary to put this evening together. So again, Debbie, thank you very much. I would also like to acknowledge our Southampton Kiwanis Club officers for this past year, along with the 35 men and women of Southampton Kiwanis who work very hard to improve the lives of men, women, and children in our community. President Rachel Foster, Secretary Ann Buckley, and not to be outdone, our treasurer, Debbie Brown. So without further announcements, let's get started. This evening, our first Police Officer of the Year goes to Southampton Town Police Department. Recipient, Detective Timothy Wilson. The presenter for this award would be Captain Lawrence Sherrick. Please come forward.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to express on behalf of the members of the Southampton Town Police Department our thanks and gratitude to the members of the Kiwanis for hosting this evening's event and recognizing law enforcement officers on the East End. Each December, our awards committee has the honor of selecting a police officer of the year. This is always a difficult and daunting task since we have so many outstanding officers who perform their duties with excellence in their service to the community. This year, our committee has selected a member of our detective division to represent our department as PO of the Year. It is with great pleasure that I submit Detective Timmy Wilson as Southampton Town's Police Officer of the Year. Detective Wilson is a 15-year veteran of the Southampton Town PD, having spent the last 13 years in the Detective Division. I had the pleasure of supervising Timmy when he was just a rookie, and I must say he was a very enthusiastic overachiever. He volunteered for one of the busiest and roughest sectors in the township and helped bring criminality to its knees in the Riverside and Northampton areas. Back in the late 80s, and woo! It almost stopped falling. Back in the late 80s and 90s, I also had the honor of working with Tim's dad, retired police officer Edward Wilson, who is present tonight. Ed was an excellent police officer who apparently instilled great police wisdom upon his son. Ed was the recipient of Police Officer of the Year in 1992, and it is no coincidence that Tim stands here before us tonight to receive the same acknowledgement. During his tenure as a detective, Tim excelled in intelligence gathering, evidence collection, and more importantly, in his interrogation skills. Not only can he successfully interview young children who have been sexually abused, but he can interrogate the most hardened criminal and acquire a confession using his wit and empathy. Tim also earned an appointment to the U.S. Marshals New York, New Jersey Regional Task Force, where he continues to assist in the apprehension of some of the most dangerous and violent criminals. In addition to solving numerous burglaries, robberies, rapes, assaults, and other property crimes, Detective Wilson is a pit bull and has the ability to work complex and heinous crimes to their successful conclusion. More recently, Tim engaged in a lengthy investigation requiring numerous interviews, interrogation, search warrants, and traveling to New Jersey to arrest a suspect on 46 counts of violent domestic assault. This past year, he also arrested a deep frock priest for the molestation of a 6-year-old girl, successfully secured an indictment of a suspect involved in an armed home invasion, and just recently took a suspect into custody for armed robbery of a Chinese takeout. On March 30th, 2017, Detective Wilson had just finished his tour of duty and arrived home to his wife and 6 children. A call was dispatched over the police radio of an open fire in the vicinity of Springboro Road in Hampton Bays. Although he was off duty, Tim's gut instinct told him to respond. Upon his arrival to the scene, Tim could hear the crackling of flames and immediately realized a residence was on fire and that the house was occupied. Without hesitation and with total disregard for his own safety, Tim entered the residence and was able to locate and extricate the sole female occupant, who was in a very disoriented state. At this point, the fire had engulfed the rear of the house and the smoke became lethal. Knowing this, Detective Wilson went back into harm's way in an attempt to save the homeowner's dogs. He was able to rescue one of the dogs before he heard an explosion and the fire and smoke became overwhelming. If Tim had not responded to this fire and taken immediate action, this event could have been a very different and very tragic conclusion. This type of bravery and public service is what defines all of us as law enforcement professionals. And we owe Detective Wilson a debt of gratitude for representing our entire profession in such a courageous and devoted manner. I'm very proud to have Detective Wilson represent the Southampton Town Police Department as Kiwanis Police Officer of the Year. Congratulations, Detective Wilson.
Our next recipient this year is from Southampton Village Police Department. And the award receiving this evening is Police Officer James Moore. And it will be presented by Chief Thomas Cummings.
I want to echo what Captain Shark said and thank the Kiwanis Club. It's been great what they do for us, and we appreciate it. Southampton Village Police Officer of the Year is James Moore. He's a 12-year veteran of the department, had some time as a seasonal before that as well. James has done a great job his entire career. He was on our SWAT team. He's done a tour in the East End Drug Task Force, and most recently was in our crew unit, which basically consisted of James. So he had to do pretty much everything that I needed taken care of, and he did a great job at it. He's getting Officer of the Year this year, though, because of a rescue he made on September 11th in 2017. We had a visitor from Massachusetts swim out into about 200 yards out from shore at Cooper's Beach. Really got caught in a pretty bad rip because one of the hurricanes was passing by, and would have drowned if James hadn't made it to the scene. Now, James immediately saw that this guy wasn't going to make it, took off his equipment, entered the water, and swam out. He stayed with the guy until the fire department could come and bring out a board with a rope on it. They got the victim on the board, and when the fire department pulled the victim back in, James had to make it through that rough surf on his own. And any of you that know him realize that James is an avid surfer and waterman. He surfed all over the world, grew up in Southampton, knows the ocean. I think most of us would have gone in the water, but I don't think most of us would have made it out of the water. So James did what every cop here would do, risk his life for someone they don't even know. A week earlier, we had a visitor from Australia. Same scenario. Unfortunately, the guy drowned, but James actually recovered him from the ocean. So the kind of bravery James showed in the fall this year with these hurricanes coming by, it's just unbelievable, and I'm very proud that he's the Southampton Village Police Department Officer of the Year.
Our next Police Officer of the Year recipient is from West Hampton Beach Police Department. And I invite Police Officer Gennaro Descalo to come forward. Presenting the award will be Chief Trevor Gons.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the Kiwanis Club, as we do every year, for helping celebrate this amazing achievements of our officers on the East End with this Officer of the Year awards. Tonight I have the pleasure of presenting one of our newest officers. He was here last year with a distinguished award. On April 19th, Officer Descalo was dispatched to the Chinatown Chinese restaurant for a victim actively choking. Officer Descalo arrived on the scene to the brother of the victim attempting to administer the Heimlich maneuver and was unsuccessful. Officer Descalo, without hesitation, took over administering the Heimlich maneuver and was able to dislodge food from the victim's throat. Officer Descalo's actions exemplified professionalism, caring, commitment to safety of others, and due to the immediate response and reaction, he saved an individual's life. With that, I want a little quick aside is nobody in the department actually even knew that he did this. When we told him he was Officer of the Year this year, he said, "I was just doing what I normally do. It was not a big deal." But we're really proud of what he did. The victim and parents were very thankful for the job he did. Officer Descalo also leads the department with all the arrests this year, with 105 for the year. And for Officer Descalo's commitment to law enforcement, I'm going to present him with this award for the West Hampton Beach Police Department and Kiwanis. Appreciate it. Job well done.
Next to be recognized is Quogue Village Police Department, and this year's Police Officer of the Year is Police Officer Anthony Comito. Presenting the award will be Chief Robert Coughlin.
Thank you. Ed, you didn't have to work too long before you had a life save in 2017. It was only January 2nd, 2 days into the year. So at 2:12 p.m. on January 2nd, Officer Comito, while at Quogue headquarters, received a walk-in emergency of a cardiac arrest that just occurred from the victim's wife. Honestly, I've never had a walk-in of a cardiac arrest, and she was very calm when she said it. So I was amazed that he, responded as quickly as he did. He said, "Well, let's go." And he ran out, and they got to the scene very quick. Officer Comito immediately made notifications for an ambulance to respond and initiated CPR while simultaneously deploying an automatic electronic defib. At the time of the AED's deployment, the instrument indicated no shock was advised. However, Officer Comito remained committed to his efficient use of basic life-saving CPR skills on the victim. Officer Comito was able to continue proper CPR and evaluate the victim's medical needs until assistance arrived from the West Hampton Beach War Memorial Ambulance. Shortly thereafter, the ambulance crew and PO Comito were able to reestablish a pulse and breathing on the victim that was unassisted. The victim's care was subsequently turned over to the West Hampton Beach War Memorial Ambulance for follow-up and transportation to Peconic Bay Medical Center. Anthony, there's no question that your life-saving skills saved this guy that day, and I want to congratulate you on that. I'd also like to mention, that was just the beginning of his year, because he had a banner year. He had drug arrests, weapons arrests, DWI, drug DWI arrests. I mean, he was really a busy guy. So from the department, I want to congratulate you for a job well done and for bringing this man to a successful conclusion. Thank you.
We're going to change the arrangement, the schedule for a moment, and I would ask the New York State Police to be recognized next, and this year's recipient is Sergeant Carlo Verardi. Presenting the award will be Lieutenant Gary Ryan.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gary Ryan. I'm a lieutenant with the New York State Police. I'm assigned as the Assistant Zone Commander in Suffolk County for us. First, I'd like to thank all of you award recipients for all your good work out here. You deserve it. I'd also like to thank the Kiwanis Club of Southampton for their continued support and recognition for local law enforcement out here in the East End. Tonight I have the honor of presenting the New York State Police recipient of the 2017 Officer Kiwanis, Officer of the Year Award to Sergeant Carlo Verardi. Sergeant Verardi is a 12-year veteran of the New York State Police. Prior to his promotion to sergeant last November, Sergeant Verardi received over 60 letters of commendation for his service to the public, including involving DWI and penal law enforcement. While assigned as a trooper to SP Riverside, Sergeant Verardi's enforcement efforts in 2017 was equally as impressive. From January through November, Sergeant Verardi was responsible for removing 15 intoxicated motorists from the local area roadways. In addition to his aggressive DWI enforcement in 2017, Sergeant Verardi continued to uphold the core values of the New York State Police, which includes the protection of life and property. On November 19, 2017, Sergeant Verardi responded to a report of a male subject lying down next to a car on Sunrise Highway, eastbound east of County Road 111. Upon arrival, Sergeant Verardi quickly determined that the male subject was suffering from an apparent opioid overdose. Sergeant Verardi administered Narcan and used an AED to help keep the subject alive until emergency medical services arrived to take over medical treatment of the subject. The male was transported to the hospital where he recovered and was released a couple of days later. Due to his dedication to ensuring the safety of the motoring public by removing intoxicated motorists from our roadways and upholding the core values of the New York State Police, Sergeant Verardi has proven to be an invaluable asset to the New York State Police and to the motoring public. It is with great pride and pleasure that I present Sergeant Carlo Verardi with the 2017 Police Officer of the Year Award for the State Police.
Our next Police Officer of the Year comes from East Hampton Town Police Department, and this year's recipient I didn't announce your name yet. It's not official. Receiving the award is Police Officer Andrew Mimo. Presenting the award, Chief Michael Sarlo.
As always, thank you to the Southampton Kiwanis Club for your continued support of local law enforcement and giving us the opportunity to come together and recognize the outstanding accomplishments of our officers. Our local East End law enforcement community is a proud and united group. We have a working bond and spirit of cooperation that is rare and unique. Working together on cases, task forces, special events, and training, many of us attended the police academy together or in-service training classes together. We are a unique system, and we have a tremendous amount of support amongst us. It's my hope that we all continue to embrace the spirit of cooperation, support, and camaraderie. As we all know, this job is scrutinized and analyzed more than ever, and it's nice to know we are all in this together. Nights like this give us a chance to come together in a social setting while also paying tribute to our best and brightest, and we truly appreciate the Southampton Kiwanis for continuing this tradition. East Hampton Town Police Department Officer of the Year is Police Officer Andrew Nimmo. In his 4th year with the police department, Andrew had a truly outstanding year of patrol work. P.O. Nimmo demonstrated keen instincts, investigative skills, work ethic, and professionalism in every aspect of his duties. While in the top 5 in overall arrests for the entire department, Andrew's impact on the safety of the community was extremely impressive. He led the department in felony arrests, which also included 5 felony possession of narcotics with intent to sell collars. He made 12 criminal possession of controlled substance arrests, developing a keen sense of criminal activity and criminal intelligence in his sector. Many of these cases have led to investigations for both our detective division as well as the East End Drug Task Force. P.O. Nimmo closed numerous investigations, including a felony criminal mischief case, which also led to the suspect being charged with felony criminal possession of a weapon. Additionally, on the night of May 27th, P.O. Nimmo responded to a call of a home invasion in Montauk at about 11:30 p.m. Upon arrival, Andrew found an elderly couple that had been assaulted in their home, with the wife having suffered several injuries at the hands of her attacker, sitting in a pool of blood in her kitchen. He quickly located the suspect, still inside the residence, and after a brief struggle, was able to apprehend the intoxicated subject, who was ultimately charged with burglary of a dwelling causing injury, criminal obstruction of breathing, assault third, and resisting arrest. It's no surprise Pio Nimmo has developed into an excellent and outstanding police officer with a talent for narcotics enforcement. As many of you may know, his father, Andy Nimmo, retired from the Suffolk County PD as detective sergeant in 2013 after 38 years of service. Not only do we thank you for your service, but we thank you for bringing a fine young man into our profession. You should be very proud. Pio Nimmo's actions that night in May, as well as his consistent excellence throughout the entire year, taking drugs, weapons, and felons off of our streets, make it our pleasure to recognize him as our Police Officer of the Year for 2017.
Our next department to be recognized is Shelter Island Town Police Department. And this year's award recipient, Police Officer Kevin Springer. And presenting the award is Detective Sergeant Jack Philberg.
Good evening, and thank you to the Kiwanis Club. This is truly one of the highlights of my year. I look forward to this event. I'd also like to congratulate the other recipients this evening for the acts of heroism, general job performance, and being acknowledged by your peers and your supervisors. Tonight I have the pleasure of introducing to you the Shelter Island Police Department 2017 pick for Officer of the Year in our agency. Kevin was a 6.5-year part-time member and now is in his second year as a full-time member officer in our department. Kevin has demonstrated his commitment to work by leading or being at the top in all statistics, arrests, DWI arrests, UTTs, and other evaluative numbers. His drive and eagerness to perform to the best of his ability is at the top. He truly motivates others in the agency, even myself. He makes the job a place where one wants to come to work. With that, my classic line that I use is Kevin truly comes to work to go to work, and that is definitely appreciated and acknowledged. Kevin puts in extra effort in his patrol techniques. A lot of this he does on his own. He'll take his own initiative to do foot patrols, patrolling areas of concern in the summertime, specifically clubs, drug activity, street level problems, and we've had a great successful year combating a lot of those very challenges that we've had in the past, mostly to do with Kevin's initiative that he takes. Other areas are his ability to gather intelligence. As we all know, it's really the backbone of successful prosecution and making arrests and closing cases. And I know personally I couldn't do what I need to do without Kevin being out there and gathering the information that he does. He truly knows what's going on, and he definitely is a resource that we put into problem areas. So with his short time as a police officer, I have to acknowledge his work ethics, his very qualities, and these qualities with his diligence have contributed to making Shelter Island both a better place and our department a better place. Congratulations, Kevin.
This year, the Riverhead Town Police Department has selected for its Officer of the Year, Police Officer Matthew Neknez. Presenting the award is Captain Smith.
Good evening. I too would like to thank the Kiwanis. I'd also like to thank Town Supervisor Laura Jen Smith for attending tonight. It is my honor to introduce the recipient of the Kiwanis Officer of the Year, Police Officer Matthew Neknez. Officer Neknez is a 3-year veteran of the department who is currently assigned to the Patrol Division and is being recognized tonight for his consistent work ethic and professionalism. In past years, when the department reviewed candidates for this award, we would lean towards one individual act or arrest that stood out during the year. We again had several officers with impressive individual accomplishments. I'd like to mention a few tonight. Officer Byron Perez, who was named News Review Person of the Year. For Byron's commitment to the community, which is outstanding. And Officer Pat McDermott, with his consistent good work in the East End Drug Task Force. However, it was Officer Neknez's constant attitude, work ethic, professionalism, and results that made him stand out this year over other candidates. Officer Neknez hit the ground running when he was hired, and he has shown no signs of slowing down. In 3 years with the department, he has consistently been at the top in arrests, summonses, and DWI enforcement, totaling over 225 arrests and 2,500 summonses. Last year, Matt was number 1 in arrests, number 1 in summonses, and number 3 in DWI arrests. More importantly than the stats, however, is the way Matt conducts himself. He conducts himself in a very professional manner, treats the public with respect, and is well liked by his peers. He is, in my opinion, one of the department's unofficial leaders. A few days ago, after Matt was chosen as our Officer of the Year, I received a letter, which I would like to share just a part of it with you. The letter was from a gentleman that Matt arrested last year who had never been arrested before and was very concerned about how his teenage sons would think of him when they found out. The letter starts with the man recounting the arrest and the disposition of his case, and then he writes, and I quote, "I'm writing to you to thank you. You treated me with respect. You treated me even more than decently. You were very kind when you told me I shouldn't worry as much as I was about my son's reaction." Unquote. The gentleman closes the letter by saying, I quote again, "Once again, Matt, I thank you for all that you did to help me that night, and for the days afterwards when I was getting so depressed and was brought out of it by your words. Thank you does not seem adequate enough, and yet I cannot say it enough times." Unquote. I've always been a fan of H.J. Brown's quote, "Our character is what we do when we think no one else is looking." Officer Neknez's actions are a great example of that. In a time where law enforcement officers' character is being constantly questioned, the Riverhead Police Department is proud to have a police officer. Matt Neknez is one of our members. For these actions and for his continued efforts, I am proud to introduce Police Officer of the Year, Matthew Neknez.
Our next department to be recognized is Sag Harbor Village Police Department. This year's recipient is Police Officer Michael Labrosi. Presenting the award is Chief Austin McGuire.
Good evening. I would like to begin by thanking the Southampton Kiwanis for their continued support of law enforcement on the East End, as everyone else did. The Village of Sag Harbor's Police Officer of the Year Award for 2017 goes to Police Officer Michael Brozzi. Michael has been employed with the village since 2014 as a part-time police officer and was hired full-time in 2016. He's a graduate of Farmingdale State University and is also a captain in the Sag Harbor Fire Department. Michael is born and raised in the village of Sag Harbor. Even though he is fairly new, Michael is respected by his peers for his professionalism and knowledge of the job. He understands that small-town policing is a full-service job that sometimes involves more than just policing. Mike's full-time police career began a little rocky. Shortly after getting hired full-time, Michael suffered a terrible shoulder injury during a charity softball game when he slid headfirst into home plate. And he was safe. Michael had rotator cuff surgery and was sidelined until December of 2016. Upon his return to full duty, Michael quickly made up for lost time. For the year of 2017, Michael had 74 arrests, which accounted for 23% of the department's total arrests. Michael also led the departments in UTTs. While self-initiated activity is a good thing, I would also like to specifically talk about Michael's actions on June 5th of 2017. At about 7:30 a.m. on that day, Michael was dispatched to an aided case in the village for an unconscious subject. Upon arrival, Michael located a 35-year-old male who was unresponsive and not breathing. Believing that this individual may have overdosed, Michael administered 1 dose of Narcan and began CPR. Michael was joined by a paramedic from the Sag Harbor ambulance, and they were able to revive the subject. The gentleman is alive and well today, and has personally thanked Michael for his efforts. Michael's actions saved the life of a son, a husband, and a father. Tonight, I'm honored to present Michael Brozzi with this award. Congratulations. Of course.
Next to be recognized is Suffolk County Corrections, and this year's award recipient is Corrections Officer Todd DeLong. And the award will be presented by Under Sheriff Stephen Keyhouse.
They ready now? Yes. So as you can tell, I'm not Stephen Keyhouse. I am Errol Toulon Jr. I'm the sheriff of Suffolk County, and on behalf of myself and the members of the Sheriff's Office, I would like to thank the Kiwanis Club of Southampton for their continuing support of the law enforcement community. As a personal note, I'm really looking forward to working with all of you, hopefully at least for the next 4 years, as a Suffolk County Sheriff and working collaboratively in either gathering intelligence and solving a lot of crimes and protecting our public. So I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the exceptional performance of Correction Officer Todd DeLong and to proudly nominate him as Correction Officer of the Year for 2017. Correction Officer DeLong, a sworn member of the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office for over 27 years, has continually exhibited exceptional service by voluntarily taking on tasks, jobs, and specific missions well beyond the expectations and requirements of his title and position. In his latest professional endeavor, Officer DeLong, the officer in charge of the Integrated Systems Unit, worked tirelessly for over 7 years designing, building, and maintaining a virtual electronic intelligence network comprised of over 600 cameras, hundreds of electronic tracking, access and control devices for personnel, weapons, and keys. He then integrated the storage, control monitoring, response and dissemination of the mountains of raw intelligence data through several key access points. He has assisted with investigations at the federal, state, and local level. His ability to subtly lead his coworkers, assemble and execute major capital projects, write procedures, identify and acquire new equipment, and train personnel make him a very important and unique asset for this office that leaves him without peer. Officer DeLong took on and excelled at this daunting mission, going well above his regularly assigned duties and responsibilities, devoting thousands of man-hours to ensure that the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office would not only meet, but also surpass mission goals. Officer DeLong's professional excellence, sound judgment, technical expertise, positive attitude, and selfless devotion to duty reflect great upon himself, the office of the sheriff, and the county of Suffolk. I would like to commend Correctional Officer Todd DeLong. He is a role model for all members of the Sheriff's Office to follow. It was great pride and satisfaction that I endorse Officer DeLong as Correctional Officer of the Year for 2017. Taking a break?
Say that speaker next to you.
Okay.
Our next law enforcement agency has not one but 4 recipients. Suffolk County Courts has selected recipients Sergeant Regina Buttigliano, Sergeant James Martinez, Sergeant Dan Frisom, Senior Court Officer Greg Rains, and presenting the awards, Chief Eileen Mallon. Let me just comment that you notice we call this the Robert Albrecht Memorial Award. Well, Bob was a Kiwanis member for many years. He was also a court officer, corrections officer. No, I'm sorry, county courts, I was right. Bob was an awesome guy, full of life and hard work, and we miss him terribly. So this presentation is in his honor.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you to the Southampton Kiwanis Club for hosting this wonderful event year after year and inviting us back once again. Congratulations to all the award recipients this year. This year's recipients of the Officer of the Year Award from the Suffolk County Courts are New York State Court Officer Sergeant Regina Buttigliano, Sergeant James Martinez, Sergeant Dan Frisom, and Senior Court Officer Gregory Rains. They will be receiving the Robert Albrecht Officer of the Year Award. Bob Albrecht was a member of the Southampton Kiwanis for many years and a sergeant with the New York State Courts. Each year, we select recipients who display the traits that made Bob the person that he was, a professional, dedicated individual. Bob would have been proud to know that these 4 officers would be receiving the award this year. It is a bit different for us to have 4 officers here selected, but I feel that they are all deserving of this honor tonight. All 4 of these officers are assigned to our Security Operations Command in Central Islip. They respond to numerous aided calls and incidents throughout the facility, and they are our front lines of security, keeping the facility safe for all who enter. Responsible, professional, and dedicated officers who go above and beyond each and every day. But 2 aided calls they responded to last year stuck out as days they made us all proud. On March 1st, 2017, Sergeant Regina Buttigliano and Senior Court Officer Greg Rains were assigned to the security post in the main lobby of the Cohallen Court Complex. At approximately 13:45 hours, they saw a 28-year-old male in distress and noticed he had visible track marks on his arm. He quickly became unresponsive and turned blue in color. They had called an ambulance, placed the individual on the floor, and administered 2 doses of Narcan. It wasn't until the 3rd dose of Narcan that the individual became responsive. The aided was monitored until care was transferred to the ambulance crew. And on November 3rd, 2017, Sergeants Dan Friesen and James Martinez quickly responded to a call for medical assistance in the public parking lot of the Hallencourt complex. Arriving on scene, they found a 28-year-old male unconscious in his vehicle with labored breathing and cyanotic skin tone. 2 doses of Narcan were administered, and the subject regained consciousness. They monitored the aided until care was transferred to the responding ambulance crew. The quick actions of these 4 officers in helping to save these 2 lives from overdose represents our agency's commitment to protect and serve the courts. It is my privilege to present the Southampton Kiwanis Officer of the Year Award for the Suffolk County Courts to Sergeant Regina Ritigliano, Sergeant James Martinez, Sergeant Dan Friesen, and Senior Court Officer Gregory Rains. Thank you.
Yeah, right up there. Thank you. There we go. Well, that's forward. Yes. There.
Our next department to be recognized is South Old Town Police Department, and this year's recipient is Police Officer Ryan Springer. Presenting the award is Lieutenant James Janus.
Good evening. I too would like to thank the Kiwanis for sponsoring this wonderful event. And it's my honor to introduce Police Officer Ryan Springer, a 20-year member of the department, to be recognized tonight as the 2017 South Old Town Police Officer of the Year for his role in an investigation that led to the arrest of 2 suspects wanted for multiple robberies. On January 2nd, 2017, at 9:11 a.m., Officer Springer was dispatched to a call of a suspicious vehicle in a Laurel neighborhood. Upon Officer Springer's arrival, he found a U-Haul parked and running with 2 individuals asleep inside. After further investigation, he noticed that there was a large stack of cash wrapped with a rubber band lying on the driver's lap and a marijuana grinder in the door armrest. After waking the 2 subjects, Officer Springer questioned them as to their reason for being in the neighborhood and the presence of cash in the van. He quickly surmised that their stories did not add up. Further searching revealed a black face mask and tin snips on the floor of the van. And when the men were removed from the vehicle, the passenger was wearing an empty black nylon holster, a black bandana around his neck, and a whistle on a white lanyard. At this point, the vehicle was searched, and a black pistol, which turned out to be a pellet gun, was located in the glove compartment. Further questioning led to the driver turning over a purple and black backpack which contained another pellet pistol, marijuana, a large knife, tin snips, black and yellow work gloves, and a large quantity of cash in a Ziploc bag. Officer Springer recognized that these subjects matched the description of 2 robbery suspects that was broadcast earlier, and subsequently handcuffed both and detained them in his vehicle. Southold and Riverhead detectives responded and quickly identified these 2 males as matching the description of suspects from a string of armed robberies in Riverhead Town and throughout Suffolk County. It is because of Officer Springer's attention to the particulars of routine call in his sector, his skill of questioning, and his observation skills that led him to the arrest of 2 men that were actively involved in armed robberies throughout Suffolk County. And for his actions on this call, Officer Ryan Springer is named the 2017 Police Officer of the Year for the South Old Town Police Department. In addition, I have a proclamation from the Southold Town Board and Supervisor Scott Russell recognizing Officer Springer's outstanding work in this matter.
Our last department that has not received their plaque, the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department. The recipient is Deputy Sheriff Lieutenant Salvatore Petrone, and the presenter is Sheriff Earl D. Tolan Jr. Could you please come up? You do your thing and I'm going to do mine.
Sure. I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the exceptional performance of Deputy Sheriff Lieutenant Salvatore Petrone and to proudly recognize him as Deputy Sheriff of the Year for 2017. Lieutenant Petrone is a 23-year member of the office and is being recognized for 2 rescues in 2017. One occurred when he was not on shift, giving testimony to the fact that an officer is never really off duty. The first incident occurred on July 10th when Lieutenant Petrone was at Sweezy's Hearts Cove Marina in East Mauritius. A gentleman by the name of Mike Jankowski on the adjoining boat was working on his engine. Unbeknownst to him, fuel had flooded the engine, and during an attempt to start his engine, the fuel vapors ignited while Mr. Jankowski was straddling the engine. He was engulfed in flames and unable to move. Sal hosed down the flames and pulled Mr. Jankowski off the boat, then went back and assisted Kim Jankowski in exiting the boat. Lieutenant Petrone notified rescue to respond and attended to Mr. Jankowski, whose legs were badly burned until they arrived. Later, when a marine mechanic examined the engine, he found that 32 quarts of gasoline had flooded the engine. If not for Sal's quick action, this incident would have resulted in a loss of life. The second incident occurred on December 11th when Lieutenant Petrone was operating an unmarked sheriff's office unit in East Eastport. Wow, that was a tough one. When he observed a small SUV which had just crashed into a metal utility pole on Route 51. The vehicle had significant damage and was smoking with a small fire starting under the front end. Sal rushed to the scene to assist the driver, Matthew Hillebrand. The driver's door was badly damaged, but Lieutenant Petrone was able to get it open and assess the victim, who was unconscious and seriously injured with his legs pinned under the dashboard. Rescue was notified and attempts were made to contain the now growing flames. 4 Good Samaritans stopped to assist Lieutenant Petrone, and when the flames and smoke began to reach the passenger compartment, Sal, along with their help, stabilized the victim and freed him from the vehicle, moving to a safe location. Within seconds, the vehicle became fully engulfed in flames. Mr. Hillebrand was airlifted to Stony Brook Hospital. Sadly, the next day he succumbed to his injuries. This does not take away from the heroic efforts of Sal and the 4 Good Samaritans. In the coming days, we were contacted by a family member who thanked Sal for his actions, which in the end allowed them to say their final farewells, which would not have been possible had he had perished in the fire. I would like to commend Deputy Sheriff Lieutenant Salvatore Petrone. His efforts are a model for all members of the Sheriff's Office to follow. It is with great pride and satisfaction that I endorse Lieutenant Petrone as Deputy Sheriff of the Year for 2017.
Now, as you have seen, he has not received a plaque yet, because there is more to this. Last year, we had a huge loss in our club. One of our members had suddenly passed away. I wanted to do something in his memory, and this is a happy event, so I decided to create the Gerald Buckley Memorial Award. Let me give you some information about Jerry. Jerry joined Southampton Kiwanis in 2013. He was devoted to his family and dedicated to his community. Jerry was a police officer from Southampton Town and Sag Harbor. He received the Kiwanis Police Officer Award in 1988. He was a 36-year member of Hampton Bays Fire Department. Jerry served as Assistant Chief from 1994 to 1999 and Chief of the department from 2000 to 2001. As Chief in 2001, he took part in the Suffolk County response to the World Trade Center disaster at 9/11. He also held the position of Fire Commissioner in Hampton Bays from 2005 to 2015. Jerry was also an EMT for Hampton Bays Legion Ambulance, Treasurer of Hampton Bays Knights of Columbus, and he served as a Scoutmaster of Boy Scout Troop 483 from 2001 to 2007, where he mentored 12 young men to the rank of Eagle Scout. Jerry had a huge giving heart, and never looked for recognition. He never thought about risk to himself. He was the type of person who would see someone in distress, an accident or something, and jump into action. When I was thinking about the criterias of this award, I tried to follow how Jerry was. There were several recipients tonight that fit these criterias, but there was one bio that stood out to me. He jumped into action just like Jerry would have, and he did it twice. Once on duty and the other on a personal time. I would like Ann Buckley, Jerry's wife, to come up and present Deputy Sheriff Lieutenant Salvador Patron to accept this, to give him the award.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, the next and final award is something we call the Howard Stock Award. For you to understand what this is all about, you have to realize that the year 2018 is Southampton Town Kiwanis Club 50th anniversary. So that's a long time. Well, this gentleman by the name of Howie Stock was a charter member. He started this police award ceremony 2 years after our charter in 1968. So the next time you have a drink, toast it to Howie and say thank you, because we have this event because of Howie. It's a special event, not only because of Howie, but because the committee, the awards committee, sits down and we read all the applications and we kind of come to a decision about who. And it's difficult because everybody stands apart, but there is one person each year who does stand apart and deserves special recognition. And this recognition goes to the Howie Stock recipient.
Okay, to all my departments. The bios that I request are so important because that's what this is going towards. This is one award I don't get involved in. I leave it all up to my committee. They give me top 3 people. Whoever has the most on the same name is the person who's getting it. I take what they give me and I see the most votes, and I don't get involved in the decision at all unless there's a tie, because I know too many people. This year, we had several officers who saved a life in several departments. This officer didn't think about risk to their life either. They reacted. This year's winner is Police Officer James Moore of the Southampton Village Police Department.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Thank you very much for your awesome service, and I hope to see you back next year. God bless and safe home. Thank you for being here.